The government is pretty committed to phasing out petrol and diesel cars by 2040, and the current crop of electric cars powered by lithium batteries are moving forward in technology terms really quickly. They're getting better range, they're coming down in price because more people are buying them, and virtually every car company is now producing its own electric car at all ranges of the market.
Are they getting cheaper to buy?
Yes, they are. I mean, obviously at the moment they are more expensive than a petrol car, but the government is giving a subsidy of up to £4,500, which makes a big difference, and also the car companies themselves are producing subsidies as well. So if you buy them or lease them, the costs are quite competitive. And the other thing that's going to happen quite soon is that the second-hand car market is going to move into electric cars, and that's going to make it much more affordable for many people.
Right, so be honest, what do they like to drive? Because I know somebody who's got one, and they're a real convert and they love it, but they say it is spookily quiet, obviously, when you get in, and suddenly you almost forget that you're driving because you can't hear anything.
Yeah, I think there is some sound. There's obviously road noise as well, but I think the thing that I'm not an electric car owner myself, but from what people say, the power behind them is phenomenal. There's a very smooth acceleration, so that although the engines aren't that big themselves, they are able to compete with quite much more powerful petrol and diesel cars.
Yes, I suppose it's just a kind of change in mindset, isn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly. People are talking to our owners who we got here today about everything, and they say, well, where's the gearbox? And of course, there's no gearbox, what's the servicing cost? And they're very low because there are fewer working parts, moving parts. So I think it is a change in outlook, really, that people are quickly cottoning on to, really.
Explain to me about the issue of how you actually charge them.
Well, you've got a variety of ways. You can charge them at your house and have a car charger plugged into your garage. You can charge it overnight. We've got a very enthusiastic owner on display today who's got solar panels. He charges his car during the day, and there are no emissions and no cost from charging with solar panels. And you can go to in many companies are increasingly having chargers in their car parks, so you can charge while you're at work. They're coming in at petrol stations, and they're also coming in at council car parks. There's one in East Hampshire, there's one due to come into Alton in about 3 months' time. And as the number of cars grows, those chargers will become increasingly available. I think at the moment, it's a slight concern to people as to will they find a charger at the right place at the right time. Sure. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for very long.
Yeah, I mean, they're becoming more common sight. I was at a very oldie-worldy pub over in Surrey the other week and suddenly noticed this thing in the corner of my eye, and it was actually an electric charger. And you're thinking, this is where we're going. This is the future, isn't it?
Indeed.
So, and I guess in the way that we all plug our mobile phones in overnight and charge them up ready for the next day, it's the same sort of concept when you've got them at home.
Indeed. And I think, interestingly enough, there's also going to be the potential, because that car, when it's at home, has got a battery with energy in it, and it's possible in the future to use that energy in the home. So there's a connection between the car as an energy source and an energy use.
Tell me more then, John, about Energy Alton. What do you actually do? You started a few years ago, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. We began in earnest in 2012. Our main mission is to help people save energy in the home. So we do a lot of help with advice about how to insulate your home better, to make it less costly to run, both in gas and electric terms. And we're very passionate about helping our environment, reducing the carbon emissions that are a cause of climate change. So we have public meetings regularly, we show films about the environment, and generally we are very keen to encourage people to think more about the planet we live in.
Yeah. Tell me about the public free home energy survey. So if you were to rock up at my house, what would you be doing?
We've got a number of people who've been trained to go around that house to look at all the different things that use energy and to make recommendations as to how that cost can come down.
Sure.
And it's a very good thing to do, because as electricity and energy costs rise in the future, people will become even more keen to make those savings.
So let's go through some of the sorts of things that you might talk about here. So my wife was moaning when the cold night started a couple of weeks ago. She said, look, we need a new patio door, and you can literally feel the draft coming in. Actually, it probably does make sense to start thinking, do I need to replace X window or that door, because of the fact that the amount it's costing in turn to heat the room, it would be perhaps more cost effective to do the replacement.
Indeed. I think the first level of action is to insulate the roof and to make quite sure you've got cavity wall insulation. But then, as you said, in cutting out drafts in the doors, people often think that it's cold, but actually it's drafty. And if you can eliminate those drafts that are in the coming under the door or through the gaps in the windows, that makes the whole house feel more comfortable. And then there's the other big energy user and a factor is your boiler. Increasingly, boilers are much more efficient and cost less to run. So running an old 20 or 30-year-old boiler, it may be it may have worked very well over that time, but actually it's giving out more emissions and costing more to run. So that will pay back relatively soon, and there are scrappage schemes that enable people to do that. But we can also, we have thermal camera, and it helps us to show people where that energy is being lost from a house, because we can show in the winter, not in the summer actually, but in the winter, where heat is escaping from.
Scary what technology can do, isn't it, really?
Well, it is, and I mean it's true also that other forms of renewable energy that you can get, they're a bit more complicated than the well tried and tested gas boiler. But once people have got the hang of it, they very quickly catch on to the benefits. The other thing that's happening, people are seeing today, are these rather more sophisticated controls that you can have, so that the heating comes on when it's needed, and you can have your house warm when you get home from work, but you're not wasting energy when you're not there.
Or again, as my wife often says, just put a jumper on. Don't keep turning the heating up. What about I'm interested in that boiler point that you raised there, because again, at the moment we're being bombarded by all sorts of adverts on the TV and on the radio and so on, saying, get a new boiler, you have to have a new boiler. Actually, there might be something in that rather than just a kind of sales gimmick from the company concerned.
Yes, I think a few years ago the government had a Green Deal scheme that paid particular attention to the energy efficiency of boilers, and I think not only is it produces a better heat for people, a more efficient home, but also it is cutting down carbon emissions. And as a country, whether we're in the EU or out of it, we're committed to the Paris Climate Agreement, which is to cut down our emissions from all different sources, both in the home and transport and so forth, in the future.
A lot of the things you've talked about today, John, are relatable to almost any home in the UK. Yeah. You've got some initiatives specifically focused on us here in Alton.
Yes, we are keen to help those people who in houses that have solid walls, because obviously they're much more difficult to insulate, and we're working with East Hampshire on how one can possibly get external wall insulation, and where there are some government grants available, not quite as many as there have been in the past, but there are government schemes available, and we're keen to help people find out about that.
Okay, and the idea really then of longer term developing all sorts of renewable energy right here in Alton.
Yes, we have got a project going at the moment where we're hoping to introduce solar panels to two of the schools in Alton. Energy Alton was also involved in putting the solar panels on the roof of Alton Library, and we're keen that to introduce community renewable energy projects, because spreading what they call distributed energy, where lots of different places are producing renewable energy during the day, and where appropriate, wind power as well. It certainly should, with the new technologies that are coming out, cut the need for new nuclear power stations, and certainly get rid of the very energy inefficient coal-fired power stations that we've still got today.
Sure. Okay, so you're here today. If people want to come and see you, they can ask relevant questions, but you obviously attend, I guess, lots of public meetings, special events and so on.
Yes, we. This is our second foray into electric vehicles. We had an event a couple of years ago associated with Lasham Historic Gliding Club, but we also go to the other events, the Victorian cricket, because we're keen to just talk to people out in the street about questions that they've got, which they may feel less comfortable about going to a commercial company, but we have no commercial interest. We're just there to help people learn more and do more themselves.
And people are wising up to this kind of thing now. Even if the planet and saving the planet isn't necessarily their prime concern, another key motivator is saving money, frankly.
Absolutely. The good thing is that the two things go hand in hand. The more people are able to save energy, it cuts down on the carbon emissions. It also cuts down on the need for new power stations to have to be built in this country.
Sure.
The more we save the better. So I think it's a win-win.
Okay, if people want to know more, as I say, they can come and see you here today. Is there a website as well?
Yes, there's an energy. We've got a website, www.energyalton.org, and there's lots of things on there, advice, links to other energy-saving websites. We have a Facebook page as well where we advertise what's going on, and if people come down to our stall outside Costa Coffee, you can sign up to get onto our mailing list, and we send out a regular newsletter to about... I think it's about 300 people. So there's lots of ways in which people can learn more.
And here's the thing, in about 50 years' time, when it's still the classic car show, those classic cars will probably be electric cars. How weird is that?
Absolutely. Well, remember that the first electric cars came in 1883. So
they really are classic.
Yeah, that's right.
Brilliant. John, thank you so much. Thank you for coming in to see us this afternoon. We'll let you get back out in the sunshine today. That is John Hubbard of Energy Alton with me in the studio at Wave Valley Radio.